What is going on, everybody? Happy Monday. BobbyFi back here for the MLB baseball show. Hectic morning, about to get to basketball, so I would love to get through the baseball show. We're going to go a little quicker. Haven't been able to reach Sheets this morning, which is always a little concerning, but the guy's a busy man. He's got a lot going on. So we were supposed to do a show this morning, and instead it's going to be just me. So I will be also posting the show on QLTV for BetQL. I want to, keep going with them as well. I'm obviously working with them and one of the best projection sites out there for both sports betting straight and then RotoQL for DFS. So wanted to remind you that. Also, you click BobbyFi, get 20% off of any package, and it's certainly worth it. All right, we're going to get straight into it. Guys, remember to give us the like and the thumbs up. We really appreciate it. Subscribe and all that. And we'll get straight into baseball. We're going to go game by game. I'm going to share my screen and talk about some possible builds we can get to on today's baseball slate. This is a little bit of a first look because we haven't had a lot of time to go through it. So I'll be making my ownership projections. Like I'll be doing my own ownerships while we go. The first game is interesting. We've got the Yankees and Red Sox here, which obviously former rivalry. You got about a 10-run total here. Actually, it's exactly 10 runs. I'm worried about this game. I would usually want to play Montgomery, especially against a Red Sox team that really, really looks lagging offensively, even though they have guys who statistically should be good against lefties. We saw Montgomery look really nice in his last game out against Atlanta. A tough team to pitch at. I thought he pitched pretty well. He had the Phillies before that in Philly, which is tough. Then he had this Boston team for his first start of the season, and you could see he's been pretty good, pretty consistent. Philly got to him with that one bad inning. But basically, I think Jordan Montgomery would be in play. Here's the issue I've got. I do think the Red Sox are scary enough. Good hitting conditions in New York. And Jordan Montgomery there's other pitchers on the slate. We also have one of the most extreme hitters, umpires in all of baseball, and Carlos Torres behind the plate tonight. So all of those things combined make me just sort of not as interested in Montgomery. But I certainly think you could make a case for him. Like, it's not like he's a guy I'll probably have 15 to 20% if I was playing the 150 lineups at first look. Again, we might decide a little differently as we move forward. But the bats in this game, you definitely want some pieces of, at first glance. I think the off the board ones, or it's not really off the board, but it's the ones that people aren't going to go to in these matchups because of how good. Well, Montgomery's a good pitcher and how bad JD's been most of this year, although he's starting to pick it up a little bit. I think JD versus a lefty at low ownership. I think just sign me up all the time. Great Hitters Park is too cheap. I could go on and on and on. I'm not going to be fully stacking the Red Sox, but JD, he's got double digits in his three consecutive games. He's homered in 2 out of his last 5. Like, he's just starting to look a little bit better. I'll take him versus the lefty at low ownership on a big slate. So he's my favorite. I don't mind if you want to go Bogarts or any of these other guys. I don't mind Vasquez in general, but like, a lot to pay for a catcher. The best next play would actually be the guy, and you're going to think it's because I'm an LA bias. By the way, you can be biased about your teams when your teams are better than everyone. The Dodgers have had that deepest lineup and the deepest team in baseball for like the last 10 years. And one of those guys is Alex Ferdugo. So if there was anybody else I'm playing from Boston, Alex Ferdugo hits the ball better against lefties. Actually has better numbers against lefties than he does against righties. So it would be Verdugo, Martinez. I don't mind Bogarts if he'd stuck at shortstop, lefty righty at 4.7. Certainly in play, but I just like other guys better personally, and you'll see that as we go through the slate. The real side you want to have exposure to on this, in my opinion, is the Yankees. It's a tough one to figure out. So I'm not going to play Martin Perez. He's generally a little better than we give him credit for at keeping things within reason. And these Yankees are expensive, and they're missing arguably, well, I guess you'd say that not even arguably, probably the 3 most difficult players to get out on their team, or the most between LeMahieu, who just gets on all the time, and then Aaron Judge and Stanton. This is definitely a C-ish lineup. So while we might want to stack the Yankees today, let's try and figure out exactly who we want to play. We've seen Gleyber look absolutely horrible in his sophomore season. I think he's starting to come out of it a little bit. He's looked a lot better at the plate. He still hasn't shown that power that we've seen from him before. But because of it, you're getting a little bit of a discount on him. He was a guy in the 5Ks along with these other Yankees early in the year. And he's one I would probably try to get heavier exposure to. He also takes up that shortstop spot. If I'm deciding between Gleyber and Bogarts today, I'm deciding Gleyber. Let's put it that way. Curious where the ownership will come in. We also have a man who's hit 3 homered 3 days in a row, and we know he can certainly be streaky. And unfortunately, the ownership will probably go straight towards him, especially in the lefty-righty matchup. But Gary Sanchez is obviously one of the premier plays on the slate. Perez is not a great strikeout pitcher. Gary Sanchez, that's what he struggles with. And homer 3 consecutive days. He's finally found his swing. We wouldn't play him because he was looking terrible. We said we're going to get back on. We just got back on, and now we're going to stay back on. So Gary Sanchez, Luke Voigt, excellent play at first base, but again, it's how much ownership and it's a tough position and all that stuff. He's not cheap anymore. Aaron Hicks, who used to be the only affordable Yankee, is sort of now in the line with the rest of them. He's fine. I actually like him better for power right-handed than I do left-handed, although lately it's been a little bit different the last year. But overall, I don't mind taking shots on Andahar. I would prefer Urshela. I think people just overlook this guy. This guy hit 310 last year with 20-plus home runs, batting ninth. I think we take a look at him. And then your stack fillers to try and get a different ownership might be Clint Frazier or Mike Tauchman, depending on where he's batting in the lineup, if he's there. I don't think I'm going to be playing much Estrada. It's not an exciting lineup when you go through it, except for outside of those Sanchez, Torres. I would say Voigt and Urshela would be the next two for me, then Hicks. They're all right there, but not guys who it's not my favorite stack, but it is a stack that I will be having some exposure to. And sorry to rush through this today, guys. We have to keep it moving because it's NBA, it's playoff time. I've got $1 million in lineups, not really, but a lot of money in lineups, and I need to pay attention to that. So let's jump over to New York and Atlanta, the other New York team. Okay, so we're not playing these pitchers in this spot unless I'm missing something, and it's possible early in the day that I could be missing something. I just don't see myself doing it. I'm not going to fall for it. I'm not about this. I'm just think there's better spots on this slate. The run total might be tempting, but you have sort of like a relief appearance. You got, I'm guessing Keown to start and then Giselman to come in. But you see, like, that was about as much as he pitched. He pitched 4 innings and he pitched badly. I mean, maybe he could pitch more than that, but I don't think we play any of these guys. He has 4,500 against Miami, so maybe you could, like, throw in a little 10% Giselman. If I get the feeling he could throw, like, 75 pitches, I would be all over this play. But if I think he's going to throw, like, 50, it's really hard to make an argument for a pitcher on a big slate throwing 50 pitches, even at this price, unless he's a really high K guy, which we don't really get from Giselman, however you want to pronounce it, as much as we'd like. I actually think you can make an argument, I'm just not going to play Yamamoto. That's it. And I'm not, honestly, I'm not really interested in the hitters in this game. I don't find myself wanting to initially play anyone. You could look at a Pete Alonso always. You can look at all these guys, but getting a stadium downgrade, if the weather does in fact stay closed, which is what I have right now, although it could change, I think we just sort of ignore this game personally. There's better games and better slates on the slate, and it's not for me personally. I certainly don't mind if you want to get some Mets in. You have a medium at best starting pitcher against them and with a really bad bullpen. So I'm okay with if you want to play some Mets, but I just personally, Mets, finally they get a stadium downgrade. I'm not really gonna play them too much tonight, I don't think. I just think that's mostly a cross-off for me, so it makes it pretty easy. We can kind of move on to the next one. Touki Toussaint, who is a guy who I am a fan of. I believe in his talent. I don't believe that it's always going to translate. And I think this is probably a little tough of a matchup to ask for him. This is Annabel Sanchez, same thing. You've got really hot, humid weather in Atlanta. You've got a massive total. You've got wind blowing. You've got a game you want to attack the hitters. Again, in general, I think Touki Toussaint one of these days gets together and is gonna be really good once he has a good full season under his belt. You see, he's got some strikeout upside. He's got some good stuff. Can get himself a little bit of trouble with control. If you get the right matchup in the right spot, you can play him. But tonight's not the night. So the bats you're prioritizing here, Juan Soto would be number one. Always, it's never going to be a different story. Juan Soto is one of the best 10 hitters in baseball. I've been saying it for years, and I know it sounds weird. He's only 20, 21 now. But literally since the day he stepped into the major leagues, he's been one of the best players in baseball. Trey Turner would be the next guy. Hasn't really shown that stolen base upside as much this year, which has me a little bit concerned because I actually really, I really liked him. I thought coming into the year he would run a little more freely, especially because they had some injuries early on, but he was really just not getting on base as much. And then he's kind of heating up right now, but still you can see no stolen bases kind of worries me because that was part of the value in playing him with some pop. And when you're playing a guy at 5,100, you'd like that little pop plus stolen base upside. Soto doesn't have it, but Soto's much better hitter than Trey Turner is. Like they're not even in the same ballpark. So Soto, Trey Turner, my favorites on that side. Turner, the problem is too expensive, so maybe you don't have as much interest in Turner by the end of the day. Adam Eaton is this right? What did they do to him? Did they just hate him on DraftKings? Adam Eaton is 2.6K. So as a value play, you're going to have to play some Adam Eaton probably today. That's just a little bit absurd for like a good hitter. I know he's struggled, but like this is ridiculous, right? Like how can he be 2.6? Why did he get that big of a – I mean, he was already low, and he's actually been playing better, and they drop him. That's kind of weird. It's not like this guy goes out there and gives you nothing. He's not a big guy who goes out there and gives you zeros. So 2,600 automatically becomes extremely interesting because he does have enough pop to where he could get there. And now I know it's been a while. He's only had one home run this year. But still, I mean, if you get 10 fantasy points out of 2,600, and especially as a part of a stack, like batting second, you know, this guy could have a bad game and score 10 or 12 fantasy points for you and actually be a great value. So Adam Eaton is an excellent play. I know he hasn't been good, but 2,600 is 2,600. Who are these guys priced for? Exactly. The other guys are low, but like Eric Thames has been, you know, he's platoonable and he's not been good. Asdrubal Cabrera had the monster game. I don't mind taking a shot with him. I don't love that he's first and third base. I'd like it if he was like second base or shortstop eligible, but you know, you can't get everything. Howie Kendrick, another one who stands out as being way too cheap. Unfortunately, again, does take up that first base spot. But I like Kendrick in general. So I don't mind like a stack here for Washington. You could include Gomes as your catcher because we always are looking for catchers in stacks. I don't mind if you want to do a weird one and play Robles, but you don't really need to get that creative on this slate. I think you're going to keep it simple with the Washington side. Soto, Eaton, followed by it's really all the other guys are close because Trey Turner's absurd price. It would be Trey Turner, but I like Kendrick as Cabrera and Thames just as much at their prices. And if you have to play Carter Keyboom or, probably not going to go too much of that, but look, if you're making a stack, you can always include those guys. The next one we're going to get to is the Atlanta side. And I'm sorry if I'm jumping screens. What I do is I've got my projections on one side and then I've got the screen I'm sharing on the other because I can't show you what I've used for my projections. Although I'm happy to tell you, it's just not it's a combination of people's projection systems and I cannot divulge all that information. So give me 1 second and I'm actually going to pause this video and give me 1 second. Sorry for the brief delay. We had a little mix-up, and we have Sheets joining us. So we're going to continue with Atlanta and Washington and bring Sheets in. We're about to do a basketball video after this. Sheets, how you doing? You ready for a monster slate of sports?
Yeah, so I presume that you didn't have too much interest in either the Boston or the Yankee pitchers,
No.
nor the Mets and Miami pitchers, right?
Like, I think that I made a case that for Montgomery, you could make an argument. If it was a better pitcher's umpire, I think I would actually have a little bit of interest. But, and I think that with Gesellman, I think that for the Mets coming out, if I hear from that he's going to throw, 60, 50, higher than 50 pitches, I think I might have some interest at 4.5K, but I don't think you need to do it.
Okay. Well, I didn't like any of the pitchers in those first two games anyway.
Yeah.
And my view on Washington, Atlanta is I actually didn't have too much interest in these pitchers either. I mean, I have about a 4 or 5 pitcher pool on DraftKings and like a 4 pitcher pool on FanDuel. I just didn't get to either of these dudes. Although Toussaint's been doing fine, I just didn't get to them. I do have interest as probably and again, the hitting is also pretty well spread out also. And the Braves make my list of teams that I might be interested in. So
yep.
I would cite stand out maybe Adam Duvall at 3,700. Freeman, obviously. Ozuna is always good. I've had good luck with Dansby Swanson also. And I think Atlanta's are one of the main teams in play here.
Totally agree. Atlanta, I give the edge to them over Washington. I did go through some of the Washington bats that I liked before. which I really like Soto. And then they made what's his name? They made Eaton 2.6 on DraftKings. So he's like one of the premier values. In fact, you're going to get some of the best value in this game. It's going to make you really wonder why you'd be paying down for pitching, because you've also got Travis d'Arnaud at 2.5K, probably batting in the top 4 for Atlanta, one of the best offenses on the slate. So you've got incredible value from those guys that can sort of allow you to play these other guys. And I agree with the other guys you mentioned. I would go probably like I'm going to be heavy on Freeman and Ozuna today. And a little bit, I'm even going to play some Markakis because I like the stack enough too. I also don't think you want to forget about Adam Duvall and trying to get him in some lineups. It's the kind of slate where I feel like I might be able to get me like a Brave in every lineup almost, or I'm almost considering it. You know, Sanchez, the weather, it's great hitting conditions, former pitcher from the same team, but it's not that I think he's so terrible. I just think that they match up really, really well with him. So definitely high on the Braves.
All right. You want to move on to the next game?
Through the next one, which will be Toronto-Boston, and Toronto-Baltimore. We do have a little weather concerns in this one. I'll check the weather later on that one. Make sure you look at it before it goes. But otherwise, Sheets, are you interested in either of these pitchers?
Yeah. So you can pronounce them if you want. The Toronto pitcher.
Pitcher. The guy's been like the best pitcher in baseball the last year.
No. I know that. I just can't pronounce his name. That's all.
Hyun-Jin Ryu.
Okay, there you go. I mean, hey, and if you can pronounce his name, anybody can, Mr. Coker.
I'm incredible at pronouncing names of guys I know. Remember, it's only golfers that I can't pronounce.
That's true.
In baseball, I'm awesome. And in basketball, because I've heard the name enough times.
Fair enough. So I do like him. I'm not getting to him on FanDuel. I am getting to some of him on DraftKings. He's like one of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I guess 6 pitchers actually that I'm interested in. I like somebody else better as my top guy, but it's fine. That's pretty much all I have to say. And for whatever reason, I thought I was going to like the Toronto bats a little more. I don't know why I don't. I guess I have to look at it a little more. But that's my very lukewarm opinion on this game, actually.
Pricing and brand, like it's weird how this is not a pretty lineup. I initially would want to stack Toronto here. A lot of, you've got good righties and a great righty hitters park against Cobb, who's been, bad against both for the most part. I actually think that, first of all, Hyun-Jin Ryu is definitely one of my top plays, and I don't understand why Baltimore's run projection is as high as it is. But that's another. I mean, they've been good. But
what do you have it at?
4.1.
Yeah, same here.
I would have thought, this guy had an ERA of 1.7 last year. He was the best pitcher in baseball. And could easily win the Cy Young anytime, any year. So I don't really understand this. It feels almost a run high or half a run high. Travis Shaw, all these guys as line. I've been trying to figure out who I would want to play. He's looked a little bit better lately. It's not an exciting group, and it's a spot I want to attack, but I don't really like it, which also makes me have a tiny bit of interest in Alex Cobb, who, when you get a team that chases too much, that can't hit, off-speed pitches very well, like Toronto, that there's a chance that the upside hits here and he somehow has 9 Ks in 5 innings or something like that. He's more than we usually pay for him. It seems ridiculous, but I don't mind taking a shot with Alex Cobb. I just wouldn't prioritize it. Definitely a lot of interest in Ryu. And then all these guys who I like their lineup, and as an idea, I prefer Biggio above everybody else. But when you're going to pay these prices, I think that I'm just going to have 10% of these guys.
Okay.
And there's no way to me you can play anybody on Baltimore. I think that would be a terrible play. Anybody.
Okay.
So, all right, let's move on. We've got the Twins we got Detroit and Chicago. I'm looking at my other cheat sheet over here.
Yeah, I'm hopelessly biased this game. So
are we gonna hear? Okay, stack the White Sox. Is that what we're gonna hear?
Let's take this for what it is. I'm gonna tell you why we're stacking the White Sox. Right. Okay. Number one, we're stacking the White Sox. But number two, I mean, how much money am I going to lose on Matthew Boyd? I mean, I can't. I know he's had good games because he's still in the league, but it's just never been when I've played him. Every single time I played him,
this year, twice.
I understand. What's that? But I don't know what to say. Maybe again, I'm biased or I'm slanted or I'm skewed. I don't know what it is. Whenever I see him pitch, he walks everybody and gets shown. I don't know what to say. And he's playing against a team that I just love playing. So why wouldn't I take the White Sox?
Go ahead, and absolutely, he's been giving up bombs. Do it.
So with that said, Boyd is one of my pitchers that I'm interested in on DraftKings. Just from a non-biased standpoint, I like one guy at the top. One guy's my favorite. Then I can't decide between 5 other dudes. So look, he does have strikeout upside. He always does, and in GPPs, that's you can't whine about how bad he's done for you. I mean, you could do that with Patrick Corbin, Robbie Ray, and all those other all those other guys, strikeout pitchers.
Yeah, those are perfect examples.
You know what I mean? So the White Sox, as much as I like stacking them, I also know they strike out a ton, and Boyd, especially against whatever lefties the White Sox throw in there, can mow them all down. With that said, I have no problem taking shots with the White Sox righties, right? So Tim Anderson, I would definitely like to take him. Even Jimenez, who's been kind of on fire, I like him. Edwin Encarnacion, I like him. Moncada, I like him. So I do like these guys. If they're going to put all these righties in, boy, oh boy, I'm going to be forced to play this. I'm just going to have to. And Roberto, oh my God. All right, so talk me off it. I'm just going to lose, I guess.
Well, I mean, you're not going to be talked off. So the thing is, you're going to get the lowest ownership you've ever seen before on Matt Boyd tonight. I've never seen him pitch in a game where the team had a projected run total over 5, much less like nearing 5.5. So for me, I just can't help myself. I understand it's great hitting conditions. I understand everything about it. I'm going to take the upside. I will play the White Sox bats, absolutely, where I'm not playing Matt Boyd. I have no problem with that. There's plenty of power in this lineup, and the priorities are pretty easy. Abreu, Encarnacion, unfortunately, the same position are the 2 top priorities in my opinion. But I think you really could argue, like, if you're not playing Boyd, you could say those guys are as good at plays at first base as anybody else on the slate. You don't touch Grandal. You just don't play him against lefties. And I don't care. At me later, guys. Come at me. I'm tired of it. All these run pure guys because he hits a late inning, a 9th inning home run off of a righty after facing 3 lefties in the game and striking out every time. And people think, or like, oh, yeah, so you can hit lefties. I'm like, well, he has to actually hit it off the lefty for it to be off of a lefty. All right.
I don't exactly know what you're talking about, but I do remember you saying many of the occasions that to not play Grandal against lefties. I don't know any of the stuff that you're referring to with the run pure or whatever.
They at like 5.5K at catcher, and we're bragging about it because he had a 9th inning home run off of a righty. And I'm like,
all right, who cares?
You don't get the righty versus lefty split. It's not a full, it's
BS. Who cares? Waste of energy. But the thing that you said, everything you just said, which, two words. Number 1, strikeout upside, and number 2, low ownership. You know what I mean? So if you're telling me for real that you can get Matt Boyd at under 10% with his strikeout upside, you just have to play it. You know what I mean? It's not going to take me, and with all my talking about how, with the White Sox and anti-Matt Boyd, it's really not going to take me too many lineups to get to him. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Just because the upside is potentially the best player on the slate. I mean, it's really possible. So, yeah. All right, let's move on to Toronto. Oh, sorry, which one are we at now?
Any interest in Detroit bats? I didn't, but
I have mild interest. I'm sorry, I forgot to say that. I do. There's a couple bats I kind of like. I don't think that I want to stack against Gio. But the thing is, he gets so wild. It's always like you know that the big inning could always come, but Scope would be the preferred play. I know he's a little bit more expensive than we've been paying, and that's what they sort of did with everybody on Detroit. So it's going to make you initially not want to play them, which makes me, of course, naturally want to play them. But it's not like we're getting a great offense here. You know what I mean? So I think that I'll stick with Scope. I don't mind a little bit of Candelario, but and Victor Reyes. Those would be the guys for me. Will Castro makes some sense, like at his price, but I'm just not going to get into these other guys too much.
Okay, Kansas City, Minnesota. I did not have any interest in either of these pitchers, but I obviously have some interest in Minnesota. And when I first looked, okay, Minnesota's playing, whatever it is, I'm probably just going to be all over them. And then I tried to pick out which guys I wanted and their prices and stuff. And it's not exactly easy to play Nelson Cruz at 5,700. You know what I mean? And then I'm looking through it, and Kepler's. I like playing the Twins when I could play Kepler. You know what I mean, against the righty sometimes. Mm-hmm. So it's not the usual just plug in Minnesota for me. And then Sano at 4,900. I guess that's okay. Polanco 4,300. That's okay. But yeah, they're fine. They're one of my 5-6 stacks that I like, and and I'll take the usual suspects.
Yeah, I'm into this. I'm gonna play some of it for sure. I don't know where they stack in relation to the Braves. They are not my favorite stack. My favorite stack is yet to come, but they are one of the stacks where I feel like if you don't get some exposure and you're playing a lot of tournaments, you could be dead. Like they're the kind of team that could go out there and put up like 9 home runs in a game. Like it's ridiculous. And by the way, the same thing I want to touch on that point too. The White Sox yesterday, for example, won the people all the money. I think they only scored like 6 runs. They had 4 home runs in a row in the 6th inning. I think were they being no hit, or it was either being no hit or 1 hit at the time with like 9 strikeouts. So it gives you a great example of why you want to stack the White Sox and why you want to play a guy like Matt.
Absolutely.
So in this spot, what I do like about these lefty situations is that these lefties get unowned for you get low ownership on Rosario and on if he's in the lineup Kepler, but I think they're going to start to have to play at Kepler every day. So I think at some point we're going to stop seeing him sit against lefties ever. Like he's still already played against some lefties this year, but not all of them. And it also makes everybody else a little bit more vulnerable. Like it means Jake Cave probably doesn't stay around the whole game, although I don't know where he's going to end up. The main guys are the usual. I don't care Nelson Cruz's price. He's the guy who, if you're betting on someone at a home run today, it would be me for him. It would be him for me. Okay. And Byron Buxton, I'm not going to need to say my normal spiel again, especially if it's a lefty. And you've got a team that's projected with this much power. I just don't know how and why you wouldn't be playing a ton of Byron Buxton.
I don't know why he wouldn't be batting ahead of Luis Arias.
They bat him. They have a weird thing there. I don't understand what happens, but it's they've always done it, and whatever. They did it with Aaron Hicks when he was there before he went to the Yankees. He was the guy batting 9th.
Hey, is there a reason why? I mean, I'm looking at a different site why Mitch Garver would be 20% owned
on FanDuel.
No, I'm looking at DraftKings. Maybe it's just a bum. It's a bum.
Maybe because you can spend money at hitter and he's rates as the top catcher, but like.
Okay, not a big deal. He doesn't have like some weird split thing against this guy or something that I don't know about. Okay.
He doesn't have enough of a history, but leading off, batting first, he's definitely the best raw points catcher, and maybe raw points are there's enough value out there is what I would say.
All right. What's the next one on your list?
San Diego, Texas, I believe. Or hold on, let me see. San Diego, Texas. Yeah. We're assuming the roof is closed. I have gotten some information on some roofing stuff, but they've kind of haven't really held up to their own part of the bargain the whole time. So sometimes when they've said it's going to be open, it wasn't. Sometimes mostly I'm going to assume Texas is going to be closed. They don't want to put guys into this 120-degree heat anymore. So you've got a pretty low run total. And do we have interest in these pitchers?
I honestly would have if I got, you know what I mean? The more lineups I would play, the more interest I would get to these guys, because I do think that this is becoming a kind of a neat little pitcher's park, right? And these guys are both kind of sneaky sometimes. So I have no problem playing them if you play a bunch of lineups. Today I'm just not getting there. But I think your point is very well taken. I think that it could be it's a low run total. And it's and I think both these pitchers are sneaky, but I hate to hedge like this. But the amount of laps I'm not playing, I'm just not getting there. But I have no problem with either of them. I did, on the other hand, have some interest in the San Diego bats as kind of like one of my 5 or 6 teams, and that would involve Hosmer, there's lefties for openers. Grisham, if he gets a good lineup spot. Tatis, wherever he's hitting, he's a freaking animal. Could still play as a value play that Cronenworth. He's not 2,600 anymore, but he's at least 3,000. Yeah. And you want another catcher, you could play Mejia. He's a switch hitting catcher. You put him in a stack or something like that. So yeah, I while on the one hand, the point is very well taken that it could be a little hitter's park and a kind of a lowest run total. For whatever reason, I did come up with San Diego as a team I want to get some guys from.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. Like our big issue with playing Hosmer, and I just think in the last couple of years, if you've played Hosmer, you've been doing DF. Not you, but anybody who's been playing him has been doing it wrong. Because he's really shown zero power until the last 4 days, like in 2 years. So
it's pretty funny.
He's hit 3 home runs in 4 days. Sure, take a shot on the guy who's hot, whatever. I have no interest. I mean, he might end up in a lineup of mine where I do a little stack because I do like San Diego.
Okay.
And naturally, you'd want lefties against Lyles. This team, so Lyles pitched in San Diego before this. You know how I am a sucker for always the pitchers from the former teams. Just seems to work out more often than it doesn't.
Yeah.
So I kind of like it. I kind of like a little mini thing, but mostly it's going to be the best. I mean, is this guy? When are we going to just anoint this guy? Hey, maybe there's somebody better than Mike Trout. Like really, there might be, and his name might be Fernando Tatis. I mean, every day this guy hits a home run. He's becoming quickly a top 5 player in baseball if he's not there already. I'm never gonna. I see his projections every night in fantasy, and they stand out so far above everyone else. It's ridiculous because he actually has power and speed, and he's a good disciplined hitter. Like it's bizarre. He's a phenomenal hitter. Great chance to win the MVP. All that stuff. I love him. He's my priority play here. I don't care about the righty at all. I like Machado as well, who's really looking a lot better. They did have a good series though, where they were playing outdoor half the time in Arizona, which was helpful for them. I like Tommy Pham would be my. It's weird because I like the righties. I don't like Arizona's lefties at all in general. I like Cronenworth because he's cheap, but their lefties suck personally. So Grisham, you can play him, but I'm just telling you, you're getting a very very mediocre to poor baseball player. But you know that's fine. Like you can always take shots at these guys. This is one day. But I'm going to side with the better hitters: Pham, Tatis, Machado, and then Cronenworth would be my 4th.
Okay.
Texas, I think you play Joey Gallo if you can get Joey Gallo in line. I don't care about the stadium or anything like that. I play Joey Gallo. He's one of the top plays in the slate.
Has he been doing anything this year?
What does anything mean? So like his fantasy point average is really solid. I think I'm not a double check here.
Well, you know what I mean. Does he hit some home runs? He look like he's doing something.
He doesn't need to hit home runs really. Like that's. I mean, he does hit home runs. Sorry, that's a reason. I shouldn't say that. He's hit home runs. Yeah, he's hit home runs, but he does steal bases also. He's hitting fine.
Okay.
The problem with him as a play that always is frustrating is that he will take a lot of walks. But what's nice about that is he will also steal bases. So he kind of helps you out a little bit. He's just immense power against a guy who doesn't have strikeout stuff. It looks like a great matchup. Mostly Davies is reverse splitsy, but you get this much power, it's really hard for me to ignore.
Okay. I mean, if I had to take Texas guys, I like Shu. I like Odor.
Are we not thinking enough about Davies, by the way?
No, he's fine by me. I mean, like you talk me into it. Maybe he makes my list over the next guy we're going to talk about.
I can't do it.
Okay.
Sorry. Just was thinking. All right. Ready?
Yep.
All right. So we got Houston, Colorado. Who's this guy?
So Brandon Bielak, he has a 23% K rate going against Colorado on the road. They're pretty bad on the road hitting, and I think that he's completely in play on both sites, and gonna get a decent amount of him. Not my top play, but in my short list of guys to target. And also on the other side, not the other side, but on the other side of the plate, I kind of like Houston here. Again, they haven't really done that great for me, but whatever. There's 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 teams I'm targeting. They're one of them. Bregman, Springer. One of these days, Altuve will hit the ball out of the infield, maybe. Correa, Gurriel, usual righties. And if you want, I don't know if I could do the Alvarez lefty versus lefty thing, but maybe could certainly hit a home run, that's for sure. And there you go.
Yeah, I know this Jordan Alvarez kid is. We let him go. He was a Dodger, just so you know. So just.
Oh really?
Yeah, that's why it's a little bit of a tough one. I mean, we lost a lot of guys like that. It happens. But we couldn't even play him today if we wanted to. But anyway, this is a weird spot. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. We finally get Freeland, and I don't want to look. You're not playing Freeland. Don't get me wrong. But I've been making all these cases every week, every show we've done, Sheets, about how Freeland is not playable. Don't play against him in Colorado. And honestly, I've been right. We've been right about this. So why am I going to jump? The problem is this team just profiles perfectly against ground ball pitching left-handers. Like, they all can get the ball in the air. So I think I'm not going to stack here, but I do think that you want some exposure to the big ones. I'll wait till Altuve starts actually hitting. So here's the truth is, if you want to have the least valuable player in baseball conversation right now, Jose Altuve might be there. I think he's hitting 180. Yep. He made 4 errors in the game the other day. He's already leads the league in errors. This is pretty incredible stuff. But I'm going to play George Springer every time against the lefty. I'm going to play Alex Bregman every time some against the lefty. And that's just going to be that. And then I don't really have a ton of wanting to stack anybody else with them. Maybe I can be talked into it later, but I think there's better spots.
You got Kyle Tucker at 3,300 hitting 4th maybe?
I don't. Yeah, I guess he would be hitting fourth, wouldn't he? Well, no, he shouldn't be hitting fourth. He should be hitting eighth in this lineup.
Okay.
I would imagine he'd be seventh or eighth because of the lefty-lefty. But yeah, I mean, I like Kyle Tucker in general a lot, so I'm never going to argue against him. But I just don't think it's a good matchup. I don't really like anybody on Colorado either, even though I like Bielak a little bit. But I don't have any interest in these Colorado bats. I feel like they should discount them a lot more when they leave Colorado.
Yeah, so you get to these last 3 games, and I fortunately or unfortunately, I think my baseball slate is going to be one of those like my NBA slates. I'm just waiting for Sacramento, Portland every week. I don't know if I'm going to have any fantasy points until the last 3 games. So we'll talk about it. So first one, what do you have first? The Angels or the Dodgers? Dodgers?
I've got the Dodgers first.
Okay, so the Dodgers actually has my favorite pitcher and my favorite hitters. And it's not Seattle. It's Stripling. He's pitching great. He's a freaking animal, and he's going against Seattle, who's they're. I talk about the frustration targeting Seattle, pitching in Seattle, but it's still a tremendous matchup. I like him a lot. And on the other hand, I kind of joked around the other day that I like Justin Dunn. He had pretty decent stuff or whatever it is, but in this freaking matchup, he's going to get obliterated. So I like all the Dodgers you can cram in, and Stripling, and let it roll.
Yeah. So I'm just as a Dodger fan, the only nerve-wracking, the only thing that makes me nervous about this situation, your only single thing, is I've seen this story before too many times. You get a guy who's not a known pitcher, and they shut down this offense that's high-powered and just crushes every right-handed pitcher. But I can't let that judge what this team should do tonight. They should be projected as the highest scoring team on the slate, and I believe they are. The Dodgers are the best stack in baseball to me. Hey, Google, what's the temperature tonight at 7 p.m.?
Today at 7 p.m. in Los Angeles, expect a temperature of 81 degrees.
Let's go. 80-plus degrees.
If you'd ever like to hear a summary of your day, just say, good morning.
Thanks, Google.
You've got a program that say, hey, Google, what's the weather today? And she'd respond, it's Corey Seager season, or something like that.
It's time to stack the Dodgers, yeah. Yeah, no, I'm into I love the Dodgers stack. It's my favorite stack on the board. I'm curious to see what the ownership's going to be because the later games don't generally get it. Even the other day when the Dodgers were projected as a second most popular stack, they ended up like 5th or 6th. But the weird thing is, baseball, people have to understand why what's changed. I'm just going to go into a really, really quick thing because it's going to be more important than anything I talk about in terms of actual game stuff. The LA team, the more West Coast, especially while teams are playing in division more, you're going to have the later stacks winning more often than not. The reason is it's a very basic thing, but the best players play in LA. That's the truth. The best hitters are in LA, both sides, the Angels and Dodgers. They've made an incredibly concerted effort to try and put together powerhouse lineups, and they both have, and they're both deep. So you're going to see a lot of times and then you've got Oakland, the young up and coming team in this version, and you've got Colorado, who's not really West Coast, but they play on the West a lot, and Arizona, who's also another team with a lot of good lefty power. There's a lot of good hitting out West, and people are staying out West. So the later lineups are going to often be winning more than the earlier lineups in today's games. I mean, sure, there's going to be different days, but in general, you want to be targeting later games more and more than you ever have.
What do you think of Stripling?
I love Stripling.
Okay.
I mean, the thing is, I always love Stripling. There's always that little thing in my head that, if he struggles, they could do something. But I actually think they're starting to give him more of a leash. I really like him. Everything on paper makes perfect sense. I love him. So I'm gonna play him. I don't know that I would like to have a sure thing ace that I could pay up for because I don't feel like I need to save any money on pitching. So that's the only thing.
I will say that his K rate is not that much greater than anybody else's on this slate, and he's going to be 50% owned maybe. So
yeah,
just a little caution, but I certainly rates to be.
I mean, in all fairness, though, too, but that's K rate. He's faced the same team twice in one of his starts, so that's tough.
Yep.
Your K rate's always going to go down in that situation. And it's just, I don't know. I have enough faith in him where he's going to get me 15 to 25 points, which is.
He's definitely my favorite DK play, and he's my favorite FanDuel play also.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time because it's not like there's other pitchers I'm totally in love with. I do just want to reiterate the guys who are the best for the Dodgers. It's Corey Seager, number 1 right now. Red hot, man. And I honestly couldn't be more proud of that call for him winning the MVP before the season. I don't think he's going to because it's going to be kind of tricky, especially because he missed some games. But you look at this guy's game log and you just get this warm sense of security. He just every day he's had a home run or 2 doubles or something. And Muncy's finding his swing again. So I'm back on Muncy. We've got the cheap outfield filler in AJ Pollock, who I've attacked at length about all year long. If we can get Muncy's power back, I mean, this is going to be a monster spot for everybody here. I even like
Jock
tonight. I see this could be more one of those games where they could even potentially let Jock have an at bat or 2 against the lefty. And also the Dodgers are harder to bring lefties. I noticed this too. People want to bring lefties in against them because of all these lefties, but not only do the lefties mostly hit lefties, the righties they bring off the bench are really good, and the other righties that are plugged in between, like Betts and Pollock, are guys who and Turner are guys who crush left-handed pitching. So it's kind of hard to pitch lefties against the Dodgers, even though you kind of have to pitch lefties. So that's why I love this whole lineup. I think you have to get exposure to every single person 1 through 9. Obviously not on FanDuel because you don't need to play Austin Barnes, but Austin Barnes should be one of your catchers on DraftKings, even though he's actually been hitting the ball a little bit lately, which is really weird because he really can't hit. But I'm all into a lot of these guys. I think I'll have 20+% on almost every Dodger.
All right, move on.
Let's go.
What's the next one on your list?
San Francisco, LA.
So San Francisco, LA is another pitcher who is right there, and that's Griffin Canning against San Francisco. He's one of my 4 pitchers under Stripling that I like kind of equally. There was Ryu, Bilicki, whatever, Boyd, and the guy we're going to get to. And Canning makes probably my 4th favorite on FanDuel, which is pretty good. So I do like him. And I like the Angels. Let's go right to Justin Upton and Trout if you can get him, and Rendon, and even Ohtani. West Coast bats for me tonight, and that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I used to be a believer that Tyler Anderson was going to be a pretty good thing, and I still think he's pretty good at limiting damage.
Okay.
At least in terms of power so far this year. And I like the Angels. But when you talk about these prices, I understand that I said that pricing, you don't need the pricing because there are some great values. If you want to play the Dodgers and Angels, you do, because these guys are freaking expensive. And for good reason. Like, look, Mike Trout against the lefty. Obviously, we want to play Mike Trout if you can afford him. You know what I mean? Obviously, you want to play Anthony Rendon, who's just been mashing lefties like forever. You want to try and get exposure to these guys, but I don't know that I want to play Rendon. It's not that I would prefer Rendon individually over Turner, but I would prefer a Dodger stack over the Angels, even a mini. So
I was just going to ask you that, like Rendon versus Turner. How would you approach that?
That's an interesting one because I really, I'm having more Dodgers because I like the stack better, but I think who's individually more likely to have a bigger game would probably be Rendon. But if I'm playing them with 2 or 3 other Dodgers, I feel better about Turner. But it's a good question. They're very close, but the answer would be Rendon if you had to make just one of 2, in my opinion.
Do you like Canning at all?
Yeah, I do, and I'm afraid of just going with these 2 pitchers. I don't really know why entirely, because the Giants, maybe just because they've been pesky and kind of frustrating for me. But I'm going to reiterate it. I don't care how terrible he's been. As long as Justin Upton's in the lineup and he's 3.3K, I'm just going to keep playing him against lefties. I don't care. If it's lefty and Justin Upton's in the lineup, I don't care how bad you've been. I don't care anything. I'll give you a shot. It's just that's like better value than the other guys because of the home run power potential. I like Canning. I just it's not like I wanted, because of, like I said, the value. I wanted to find pitchers that I felt like were like the top upper end, and I don't feel that way about anybody. So I guess it does become Canning and Stripling.
So last game of the day. So if you didn't like any of that pitching, you can. I mean,
the best pitcher. This is the best pitcher.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, Zach Gallen, he's the one that's can get 35. You know what I mean? Like on tonight's slate. And in GPPs, you just have to play him. Now he's probably too expensive on FanDuel to play. I don't have him as decent value on FanDuel, but on DraftKings, I mean, if you're gonna freaking play Matt Boyd, for example, I mean, like, you gotta play Zach Gallen. I mean, he's a good matchup. He's incredible stuff. And we talked about this a couple of slates ago. when you're like, dude, he's already there. He's already a freaking beast. So he's certainly on a very short list of pitchers I want to play. Like if I play Stripling, Gallen, I'm going to be pretty freaking psyched if you want to know the truth.
I think we need to have information though before we get too committed. So I can actually have a site where I can do that. I just don't want to do it right now. But
what do you want to get? You were saying?
If the roof's open, just have a little bit less interest maybe. Still have interest. Don't get me wrong. But I have interest in both these pitchers, and if the roof's closed, I have a ton of interest.
Oh, you like Bassett too, huh?
I just think that we've got to start acknowledging a guy who, first of all, coming into the year, I don't understand why everyone was so on him until they started talking about how he changed his mechanics. And honestly, as a real-life pitcher, he's looked excellent. And while the numbers don't look great, you got to remember he's faced the Angels twice and Houston once, and then he got Seattle one time, which he put up 26 in that game, of course. But so while the strikeout numbers don't look as high as they should be, it's because of the matchups he's had so far. And, you know, I'm looking for guys who can give me 20 fantasy points, and I think he's one of those guys.
All right. So any hitters? I don't like any hitters in this game.
No hitters for me. If there was anybody, well, I guess it depends. If the roof was open, I'd have some interest in some of the Arizona lefties, but I don't really have a ton of interest in the way that it's breaking out. I'm a little concerned at the total, which is why I started bringing up the roof. So I'll check out the roof. If the roof's open, still have interest, don't have quite as much interest as I did. Real quick sum up.
Yeah, I'll do mine real quick. Pitching wise, I think Stripling's the safest play, both in I don't play cash, but cash. What's his name? GPPs and all that stuff. I think he's going to be owned, but I think he's the best play. Under that in DraftKings, I definitely think the Gallen is the best GPP option. But you know, Boyd is a similar type of situation. Not similar, but Boyd has upside too. And the other guys we mentioned was Canning, Ryu, and I'd say Balicki. I forget who he is already, but that guy. And then on FanDuel, I like Stripling at the top, and then Boyd and the Bieki, whatever his name is, and then Canning. Hitting wise, my 6 teams again. I looked at number 1 going away is the Dodgers. Then Atlanta, Minnesota, the White Sox, and then Angels, Padres, and Astros.
I've got my favorite pitchers are Gallen, Stripling, Ryu, Canning. Gallen, Stripling number 1 and 1A. Ryu and Canning. Ryu just a little ahead of Canning. And then Matt Boyd is the wild card, I guess. You call him the wild, whatever you call him. And then Bialik is the next guy.
I thought, he's a nice guy. I thought you said
the next guy. No. I'll mix in the other guys a little bit. Maybe I'll throw this Bassett into one or something. But those are the main guys for me. Stacks, Dodgers, Twins, some Chicago bats, Atlanta, and mini Angels, I guess. That's my favorite. And my favorite hitters individually: Seager, Tatis, Bellinger, d'Arnaud, Gallo, Eaton, Freeman, Ozuna, Soto, Springer, Trout, JD, Pollock, Abreu, and Cruz.
Big slate. I think it's pretty, for me, it's pretty well weighted towards the end of the slate as far as time goes. And that's all I got.
Let's do it, man. All right. Well, we're going to get out of here, guys, so we can get you some basketball. I'm going to stop my screen share and close out. For Sheets, I'm Bobby saying we are good luck tonight, and we'll see you at the top of leaderboards.